Part 2 ended after our dinner at Sourdough Mining Company in Anchorage. Day 22, July 13, early that morning while still in Anchorage, David took Betty back to the airport to be by her son's side at the birth of their grandbaby. While she was here, we all made friends with her and missed her when she returned to Texas. She was truly a lovely lady. Then David left the airport and drove to Palmer to greet us as we arrived at the Homestead RV Park. Our group only had to travel 35 miles to get to Palmer, but we did have to be there before 3. The event planned at 3 was a visit to a musk ox farm, and later a dinner prepared by the staff of Adventure Treks. We arrived early before the event started and were able to visit the town of Palmer and retrieve our email at the library. We carpooled to arrive at the muskox farm and toured the museum before going out to see the animals. Musk ox shared the Ice Age and lived with many animals, and they lived here in Alaska at that time. There can be fossils found in many of the lower 48 states. Colorado, Nebraska, Iowa, Kentucky, and Florida are just a few. Musk oxen are usually 7 feet long and 4 feet high at the shoulder. Adults on average weigh about 628 pounds. Their wool is highly prized for its softness, length, and insulative value. Prices for yarn range between $40 and $80 per ounce. Ouch! Musk oxen are social and live in herds, usually of around 10 to 20 animals, but sometimes over 70. They have a distinctive defensive behavior when the herd is threatened. The bulls and cows will face outward to form a stationary ring around the calves. This protects the calves from wolves. The musk oxen is believed to have migrated to North America between 90,000 years and 200,000 years ago. Therefore, it makes it a contemporary of the mammoth. And now, our guide, Addis, will take us on a little tour of the farm. Some of the animals have become pets. This one has the name of Evie, and this one has the name of Blue. After the tour, we went back to camp, to the recreation room called the Homestead, where our tour staff had dinner prepared for us. Reindeer sausage, hamburgers, salad, dessert, and drinks, all served with little fuss. One of the members of our group, Jim Mitchell, brought his special dish, ceviche, made with raw but marinated halibut. He served it with crackers, and it was absolutely delicious, and we finished all of it. Owners of the campground, Bill and Kathy, told their story of how they became owners of the campground, and then showed us slides of the early settlers of Matanusa Valley. After the slideshow, some of us went outside to enjoy the view. Day 23, July 14, we traveled 132 miles to Glen Allen. Again, no animals in sight, but we did have a campfire that night. King River, Matanuska Glacier. One lone cabin on Lila Lake. I just wonder where they get their supplies, as there's no stores for miles. Nelchina Glacier. A sign about the Army. These poles along the highway are snow markers for the plows in the winter. Can you imagine being in this area with snow that high? Little Nelchina Bridge. We've arrived at our destination for the day, Tulsana Wilderness Campground, and David is waiting for us on the porch. After we all arrived and had dinner at our site, we had a campfire, which included funny personal stories, games, and s'mores that night. Norma and Mark Cole, who in their truck had pulled their XL fifth wheel from Leavenworth, Kansas. Tim and Helen McConnell came from St. Leesburg, Florida, in their Fleetwood Bounder. Tim told a funny story about Helen about how she had lost the top to her bathing suit. Jim and Joe Mitchell with their truck pulled their landmark fifth wheel from Rancho Cordova, California. David and Judy Brose, who had traveled from Easton, Kansas in their Class C Jamboree. Velda and Kermit Coons traveled from Wichita, Kansas in their Georgetown Class A motorhome. Susan and Bob Pisano traveled in their Journey Class A motorhome from Goshen, New York. Richard Chesson and Carol Salatino traveled from Prescott, Arizona. Richard pulled an Arctic Fox fifth wheel with his truck. Raina and Roger Miglor came from Queen Valley, Arizona in their truck pulling their homestead trailer. Ted and Judy Lyon traveled in their Southwind motorhome from Jersey Shore, Pennsylvania. Sandy and Jim Marquardt were our tail gunners, and with their truck they pulled their Arctic Fox fifth wheel from Glen Rock, Wyoming. David Baxley, the owner of Adventure Trek and leader of our tour, pulled a trailer from Grapevine, Texas, and it was a Wildcat. Here, Bill and Jean Dietrich are doing a little skit for us at our campfire fun night. They had traveled from San Rafael, California in their Flair motorhome. Judy Gerard is a teacher, and she taught her students a little song and dance. She then tried to teach our group, had us join hands in a circle, slapping our shoulders and our knees and so forth. We couldn't keep up with her. Jim and Judy Gerard drove their Safari Tiger motorhome from San Rafael, California. Pat Strong told about the time that she was in a comedy whodunit play. She played the part of an actress. Her mother was in the audience, and someone sitting in front of her mother said, "I have figured it out. I know it was the actress that murdered the guy." Pat's mother said, she leaned forward, "That's my daughter. She wouldn't do anything like that." Pat and Art Strong are from DeWitt, Iowa, and Pat did all of the driving as Art wasn't that well. With their truck, she pulled an Outback fifth wheel. She did all of the hookups, all of the unhooking, all of the driving. Boy, what a gal. Donna did the old song familiar to us all when we went camping as kids. What did Della wear? What did Della wear? I ask you as a personal friend, what did Della wear? She wore her New Jersey, she wore her New Jersey. I tell you as a personal friend, she wore her New Jersey. Donna continued her song using other various states in her rhymes, and all the girls joined in and sang along with her. Don and Donna Poole traveled from Exeter, California in their Class C Jamboree. Vern Friesen and Irene Dunn are residents of Canada. Vern drove his Royal Class C motorhome on the tour. Pam Adams and her grandson, Jonathan Barry, and her mother, Lois Kimball, traveled from Ramona, California in a Southwind motorhome. Pam was followed throughout the tour by her aunt and uncle, Jack and Raylene Williamson. They were also from Ramona, and they were in a Yellowstone motorhome. Remembering what we used to do at our campfires when we were younger, we just had to make s'mores. Everyone gathered around the fire pit to melt the marshmallows for the s'mores, and also to help themselves to the treat of the roasted marshmallows. The s'mores brought back many, many good memories, and it also brought to an end our day 23. Day 24, July 15, we left Tulsana Wilderness Campground and headed 135 miles to Valdez. We stopped to visit the Mount Wrangell Museum. Tadslina River. Mount Wrangell at Willow Lake. Beautiful snow-capped mountains at Teakle River. We're approaching Worthington Glacier. Richard Chesson and Carol Salatino are two of those 4 people at the bottom of the glacier. There were several glaciers in this area, which resulted in a lot of waterfalls. Bridal Falls, and not too far away was Horsetail Falls. In the distance is Valdez Glacier. We've arrived at Valdez, and look at all of the tanks storing oil. This is Bayside RV Park, where we will stay the next 2 nights. At 6:30, our group had a potluck at the camp's pavilion. We had such a variety of food, and our group is to be congratulated on how good everything was. Day 25 of our tour was our second day in Valdez. Our first tour today was the Valdez Museum. Tim McConnell and Bob Pisano. The Good Friday earthquake occurred at 5:36 p.m. on March 27, 1964. Located in the Chugach Mountains, the epicenter was approximately 45 miles west of Valdez. The original rating of the earthquake on the Richter scale was 8.6, but it was later changed to 9.2. Normal earthquakes last a few seconds or maybe a minute, but this one went on for over 4 minutes. Terrible damage was done to other cities in Alaska as well. The village of Chenega on Prince William Sound was completely wiped out by a tsunami that killed 23 out of 72 residents, leaving only the schoolhouse standing. Seward and Kodiak both suffered extreme damage from the quake and the accompanying tsunami, and Seward had a bad fire as well. The Turnagain Arm area of Anchorage had a massive landslide, ruining some of the most expensive real estate in Alaska. All in all, Alaska was extremely lucky that only 115 lives were lost in the '64 quake and accompanying disasters. Of the 10.8 million gallons of crude oil spilled from the Exxon Valdez, it was estimated that 40% landed on beaches, 35% evaporated, and 25% entered the Gulf of Alaska. Our second tour this morning was the Valdez Historical Archives. Our third tour was Solomon Gulch, and it was kind of a fish ladder. Here, Ted Lyon is hand-catching a fish. He so wanted to keep it, but that was just a wish. After Ted put the fish back, we spent a little more time in the area and then went back to camp. Our next event was to start at 1:15, where we were going to go out to the Columbia Glacier. This is the headquarters for the Lulubelle yacht. At 1:15, our group boarded the Lulubelle, a yacht known as the Limousine of Prince William Sound, to cruise to the Columbia Glacier. This was a highlight of the Adventure Trek tour, and to all it was worth it, that's for sure. Captain Fred Rodolph, who is owner of the yacht. We pulled out of the harbor, and shortly afterwards we came across this group of sea otters. Donna Poole climbed the ladder up to the flying bridge where she could get some nice close-up pictures, and later was joined by David Baxley and Bob and Sue Pisano. Others in our group stayed in the galley. There were dining booths where they could sit comfortably. Then there was a room in the yacht that was similar to a living room, which had comfortable couches. Captain Rodoff, who's done this since 1979, guided his luxurious yacht like threading a needle into this ocean cave. It was a very tricky maneuver just to get to see a sea lion and two puffers. Captain Rodoff was very brave. We slowly passed by this huge group of sea lions playing on the beach. Captain Rodoff worked to find some whales for us to see, and he retraced the route and made circles around them so that we could get some good pictures. Captain could tell when a whale was going to breach, and he always warned us so maybe we could get a picture. Well, that was a lot of fun, and Captain Rodoff said, "Okay guys, we're going to go on our way now to see the glacier." When we arrived at the Columbia Glacier, Captain slowly guided his boat through the floating ice. Crunch, crunch, crunch. We felt it must have some kind of steel hull to be able to get through those icebergs. You could hear them scraping the side of his yacht. When Captain Rodoff thought he had gone as far as he could safely to get through the ice, there was one iceberg that was clear to the floor of the sea, and we couldn't get beyond it. He stopped his yacht so the girls of his crew could take pictures of each couple using their own cameras. Now, wasn't that nice? Pat and Art Strong, Patsy and Tony Bunch, Donna and Don Poole, Jean and Bill Dietrich, Norma and Mark Cole, Velda and Kermit Coons, Pam Adams and her grandson, Jonathan Barry, Judith and Ted Lyon, and Vern Friesen and Irene Dunn. After pictures were taken, we headed back to port. We arrived back at port, and we understand that Captain Rodoff converts his yacht to a personal residence in the winter. He moves his yacht to somewhere on the seaside of either Washington or Oregon to live in it for that season. Day 26, July 17, was a 254-mile trip to Talk. Our guidebook pointed out many things for us to see during the day, but we needed to keep in mind that we had a dinner planned for us at 6 o'clock. This tunnel was on a route from the coast to the copper country. 9 companies had a gun battle over it, and it was never finished. Don't know what kind of car this was, and you'd really have to be a car enthusiast to want to restore it. We arrived at Talk's RV village and set up camp. At 6, we all met at David's campsite for him to lead us over to where we would have our salmon baked dinner. We all enjoyed the delicious salmon baked dinner, and again we all said, you know, we just aren't going to get any thinner. Day 27, July 18, was to be a real fun day after a 77-mile ride. We left Talk to get to Chicken. a wide spot in a valley, but nowhere to hide. On our way, we passed these hills of these beautiful pink flowers. It was the site of at least 40,000 caribou who would cross this highway to migrate east in the fall. This is Chicken's post office. This is a restaurant in Chicken, one of maybe 3 businesses in the valley, including the post office. There's no airport in Chicken, but there is a landing strip. We've arrived at our RV park for the night, the Chicken Gold Camp, now known as the Chicken Creek Outpost. David had advised us to fill our water tanks before we went to Chicken, as there would be no water available at the sites. You could pay to take a shower. There were 20-amp electric pull-through sites available, but no sewer. There were very few trees scattered here and there, and no one lives there in the winter. The population increases to 9 if they are lucky in the summer. There were 3 activities planned for the day. You could pan all day for gold as long as you wanted, and it was all free. And then there was a dredge tour, again that was free, and a dessert party later that night. The camp's owner, Mike, gave our group instructions on how you pan for gold. You'd put a small amount of dirt in your gold pan from several piles of dirt in that area, and then swish them around in this trough of water until you got down to where the little gold flakes were. Donna quit panning for gold when she found the largest nugget of the day, according to the owner. It was a very thin, small piece that resembled a tree leaf. Donna purchased a locket from the owner and had her put the nugget inside of it. On day 11 at the El Dorado gold mine, Don and Donna had accumulated flakes, and they had earrings made for Donna. This added locket then made a nice set for her. While members of our group continued to pan for gold, others were taking a tour of the gold mining dredge, a gold miner's dream. Mike, the camp owner, explained everything about the dredge as he took us on the tour. At 7, we all met at the little camp pavilion, and Mike and Lou served us blueberry cobbler and ice cream. Then we played trivia, and to the winners, some nice gifts were given from their store. Of course, we all shopped at their store when the dessert party was over. We drove 163 miles from Chicken. It was day 28, July 19th. We crossed the border back into the Yukon Territory and stopped at a service station. While there, a group of Model A owners came in with their cars. They must have driven a long way together because this car is from Texas. As the Model A's left, we finished gassing our rigs, and then we proceeded to our destination at Beaver Creek. We've arrived at the Westmark Inn campground at Beaver Creek, and we set up camp. The planned event was a barbecue dinner at the Rendezvous Theater that night. The dinner was good and served family style, so the portions were just right. Then the show began. When the group's entertainment was over, we heard this loud noise of an airplane approaching, and all of a sudden this airplane crashed through the roof, with the fellow that was in the airplane coming down on his rope. The fellow was the lead performer of the show, and he entertained us with some comical quips. Then he stopped and asked Lois Kimball to sit on his lap, and he asked her a few personal questions, like where she was from and how she got here. When the show was finally over and some people left because it was way too long, we did get to experience this beautiful sunset. Our destination, Whitehorse, was a long drive today of 281 miles on July 20, our 29th day. There were many sights to see along the way. For example, this moose. He's standing in Moose Lake. White River. Notice these 3 swans in a pond. Construction work at the Donjek River Bridge. More work just past the Cottonwood RV Park at Destruction Bay, Soldier Summit. In 1903, during the gold rush, this bridge was built by 2 men, Sam McGee and Gilbert Shelley, as a wagon road to cross Canyon Creek. Because of flooding and heavy traffic, the bridge had to be rebuilt in 1942. During construction of the Alaska Highway, the bridge was dismantled and a permanent bridge was constructed just down the river. The old bridge did not meet the current highway standards. In 2005, more work was done on the Canyon Creek Old Bridge, which resulted in an almost new bridge. We've arrived at Whitehorse and parked our units at the Pioneer RV Park and Campground. We had no scheduled events after our day's travel. It gave us a lot of time to unravel. After we parked our units, we were told to give our birth date and citizenship to our tail gunners. Tomorrow we will take a train ride to Skagway and we will be passing through customs.